Welcome to SF Commercial Property Conversations with Bruce Bean, where Bay Area investments meet expert insights. Get ready to unlock the strategies of commercial real estate success.
So today we have Boyd Woodard with us, and Boyd has come from basically being a dishwasher when he was 14 years old to being a commercial real estate syndicator. So Boyd, it's great to have you. I'd just love to hear a little history of how you got to where you are.
Yeah, great to be here, Bruce. Yeah, you're right. I came from being a dishwasher out in the Delta to now syndicating commercial real estate. And it was not a straight path to get here, but the work ethic was the same along the whole route. My father was an entrepreneur, worked on Wall Street before he ended up becoming a marina operator out in California. And as he described it, he said he was trying to pitch this marina to investors. They weren't buying, and he said the deal was too good to be true, and so he ended up buying it. And so he ended up getting investors to back him and became a marina operator in California and left Wall Street to do that. And I watched him struggle through that in the 80s when interest rates went up to almost 20% and all his hair turned gray. And I got to be right alongside watching that whole journey. So yeah, as soon as I was 14 and a half, I got my permit to work, and I worked in the restaurant washing dishes. And I wash dishes like I own the place, and that's the way I ended up doing everything. And I felt like all eyes were on me because my dad did own the business, and that I carried with me through my whole career. Even working I worked my way through large corporations, working at Western Digital and Edwards Life Sciences. And the culture is both wonderful companies that have great cultures, very different cultures. But the one thing that makes you stand out in a large company is acting like an owner, and I think that's in any company that you work in, large or small. But that original experience did feed into that way of looking at things and working through. So yeah, I got a degree in industrial technology at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, which I wasn't able to get in on the normal path, but I found the loophole, which is apply in the summer, and you can get in with less competition. That's a lesson for life right there. Sort of a blue ocean strategy, right? But I was able to get into Cal Poly, and 2 weeks after graduating high school, I was in college. And from Cal Poly, I ended up going to Western Digital, and I got experience working internationally with Western Digital. Great experience there, seeing different cultures and working with different people, which definitely informs my way of working now, because you run into all sorts of people in real estate, and knowing how to navigate the different personalities is critical. After Western Digital, I worked in medical devices and at Edwards Life Sciences, which was a very different industry from electronics, highly regulated industry, high margins, and but very quality focused. And that experience taught me about extreme diligence, risk mitigation, and quality control.
So I'm curious, I mean it's fairly intuitive, but give us a little description of what you think act like an owner and work like an owner is. I'm intrigued by that phrase.
It's really the feeling. I would have to say that it's the feeling that it all rides on you. That in the end, it all comes down to your effort. And even the interesting thing is even when your position is not necessarily everything riding on you, the outcome of whatever position you're in does all ride on you. So you can have that sense of ownership no matter where you sit in an organization. I think it's vital that an individual does have that, but it's a feeling of responsibility that goes above and beyond just delivering the bare minimum of what's expected, but really striving to have excellence in the output of your efforts.
It sounds like you didn't take any um, kind of victim approach to working, that it was all up to you to make it go together and so forth.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's so critical for self-empowerment in terms of your perspective on life. Otherwise, you're going to see in your everyday occurrences the things that are against you, and you'll make them, a mountain out of a molehill, where really those obstacles are things that you're being called to overcome. And those are your opportunities to step up versus the adversity that's going to set you back. I think that's paramount in entrepreneurship and in real estate. Um, in syndication, I just had a call with someone this morning who says, it takes a lot of guts to to be a syndicator or be a GP. And it's true. You do come up against some major obstacles and some extremely high pressure situations. And, it's grit and emotional intelligence that is required to be able to navigate and be able to make good decisions and execute at a high level. And that all goes back to that ownership mentality.
So then you kind of pivoted. You started buying up laundry, or not buying laundry, leasing facilities so you could put laundromats in, which I'm
Yeah.
intrigued with.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking for a business that would create cash flow that I could effectively operate while I was still working. So required limited amount of my time, and I think I was a little bit over zealous on how limited the time would be in that business. That's not, it is passive, but once everything's set up, and that's just like business in general, once everything's set up, it becomes passive. You got your board and you got a CEO running your company. That's truly passive. Well, it only takes you a decade to get there, if not longer. But at the beginning, it was quite a heavy workload on nights and weekends to build that up. But those businesses do cash flow if you buy right, your basis is right, your lease is set up correctly, you put it in the right location, and you provide excellent customer service and quality of service. You treat your. I had fully attended laundries, so I had employees. There's other people that just open the doors and everything's on automatic. That's a different business model. It works. I know people that works as well. But I wanted to be a price leader, and I built it that way. And I had employees. I knew I had to manage people because of my time in the corporate world and managing people there, which was a completely different. I was managing PhDs in the corporate world to managing laundry attendants. That was a major challenge for me. I'll tell you, the communication. I thought I had good communication skills until I had to communicate with people. A lot of people were immigrants coming over working in the laundromats, and that was a significant challenge. I can't. I could have a whole discussion about how challenging that was for me. Um, but a great learning experience. And people are people, no matter if they got PhD, if they're a VP, or if they're an attendant. There's very common needs that you have to meet with them. There's different ways to meet those needs depending on those backgrounds, but they need to be valued. They need to have clear direction and understand what the vision is and what's expected, and a great learning experience, and met a lot of great people along the way. And I've had a lot of challenges along the way. And one of the things that I'd say to anybody opening a business is imagine the worst things that can happen to you and be willing to accept them and expect them to happen to you. Then then you're prepared when it happens.
Yeah, exactly. That's interesting. Yeah. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best, or whatever that phrase is.
Yeah.
So you did work in Puerto Rico. I'm sure that gave you an extra interest in working with different cultures and so forth. That I'm sure that was helpful along the way.
Yeah, that was very helpful. That was a very stressful time for me because soon after I moved down there, the whole management team that put me into that position turned over, and
Oh,
there was
wow.
restructuring. So I was literally on an island in a new industry, and my management team and my connection to the U.S. had been turned over. So I had to
Oh,
make
wow.
new connections with the new management team, and I had to continue to build the bridge with the management team at the manufacturing plant, and getting, being different and being not one of, not a Puerto Rican, your access to information is limited, and that was extremely challenging. But it really challenged me to form relationships, to learn how to form relationships with people who may not necessarily trust me at the beginning. How do you win that trust and demonstrate that you're someone that they can trust, and form the relationship with the right people that aren't going to give you misinformation and potentially lead you in the wrong direction. That was, yeah, big learning curve for me at the Puerto Rican plant.
So this all led you up to becoming a real estate syndicator. So, all of that experience kind of bundled into becoming a non-W-2 person and going into commercial real estate.
Yes. Yeah, and really the steep learning curve in commercial real estate was in the laundry business because of understanding the leases, the all the ways that from the tenant side, things can go wrong, and how you need to protect yourself on the tenant side. But then understanding that as being a tenant, I understand what a good landlord needs to provide, and how vital landlord's vision for the property and how they manage it empowers the tenants to be successful, which ultimately is the goal of a landlord, because they're the ones paying the bills that pays your mortgage and ultimately the returns on your property. So having that experience really gave me the insight into what it takes to have a successful retail center, and then everything else that goes along with that development, uh, you know permitting, legal issues, all of that is in a small package. When you're building a laundromat, you've got all of those things bundled into one space, so to speak. So it's on a small scale. It's all of the different disciplines have to be mastered to be successful, and it applies. It's just scale at that point.
So now you're kind of coming into this world where there's $800 billion worth of low interest loans coming due, and you're putting together some dry powder to buy up some of those properties as they come around or spin around.
Yeah, yeah. So we've been, monitoring the market as everybody has in this space, and we have not been buying. Over the last couple of years, we've kind of been on pause as things were resetting, because we saw that there's a disconnect between asking prices and what the valuation of property is based on the cost of debt. And now we're starting to see things are, there's deals coming out. There's more pressure because most commercial loans are 5 years, and then they set to the new market rate. And if, go back 5 years, what the interest rates were, and between that 5 to 8 year, those are coming due. And now there's pressure on landlords to refinance. They either have to come up with additional capital to cover, or they'll need to sell. And there's obviously the graying of the nation, and there's families that have legacy portfolios where they're ready to exit and their basis may be low, so they can sell at a good price, and their basis is so low they're fine with a lower price, or what I think is real market price, for the next owner to be able to profit from the property. I think those deals are going to be coming out more and more, and we're putting together a fund to be in position to be a buyer that can act fast and be compelling to a seller who wants a smooth transaction, and be able to position ourselves for ourselves and our investors that ride along with us to get into properties at a good basis, which we think, we're at the uptick of a new cycle.
So you're using AI at this point to look at some of these transactions and the data that's coming out of the transaction to analyze whether you think that's going to be a viable property to purchase.
Yeah, you can extract information from OMs and do underwriting quickly, the back of the napkin type stuff, and then you can run sensitivity analyses and things on that data quickly to, sort through lots of deals in a tenth of the time that you could before. And we're developing workflows to be able to do that. On the other hand, on the brokerage side, they're able to find information on properties and owners through publicly available information, using AI to source potential leads for properties that would be a good acquisition target.
What sort of cap rate are you typically looking for these days?
Well, it depends on what it is, but something around the 6.5 to 7%.
Yeah, no, that's always a good number to find. Not too high, not too low. Something pretty decent.
Yeah. Yeah, and there could be a lower cap rate that will be willing to accept if there's a story on capturing additional value.
Mm, right. Yeah. So it's all sorts of things. And it sounds like you're sourcing investors through the medical world, just because I think it sounds like you have connections in that area.
Yeah, it's important that there's a connection with the audience that you're talking to, and that medical community. I've lived that world and understand what it's like to operate in med device and med tech, and in the executive world in general, in the corporate world in general, what it's like to be paying the taxes as a high income earner at W-2, W-2 tax rates, and the pressure to find alternative sources of income that can sustain far after you stop working at a more tax efficient type arrangement. And real estate provides that.
So I'm curious, where can investors get a hold of you, Boyd?
Yeah, so they can reach me at my email, boyd.woodard@kalturis.com. And they can reach me at 805-801-1449. Or send me a message on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I believe that's where we met. And
It is.
I'd love to hear from anybody that's interested in what we're doing.
Well, I want to hear from you again in 3 to 6 months and see how this dry powder is being executed and sent out into the marketplace.
Absolutely. I'd love to do that.
All right. Well, let's keep in touch.
That's a wrap on today's journey through the SF commercial real estate scene. Ready to share your story? Visit sfcommercialconversations.com/guest. Your insights could lead the next conversation.